Good afternoon, everybody. Uh, Saturday afternoon, August 15th. What could we all be paying attention to in the middle of a lovely summer day like right now? Well, I know that many of you are watching the exact same thing that I am if you're not out recreating yourself today. And you're watching UtHo roll up on Sundance. So I noticed that Brett's beacon hasn't pinged in about 20 minutes. But I'm looking at Michael's beacon right now, and there's a little bit of a propagation delay through these PLBs. And so usually by the time you see the ping show up on the map, they're about 5 minutes ahead of where it is. There's another ping coming up here from Michael in about 3 minutes, and they should be right on that final gnarly little roll that rose up to Sundance when we see the next ping. And shortly after that, what those guys have agreed to do is pull out a cell phone and join us here. So we're going to do a live feed with those guys from Sundance Mountain, something we've never been able to do before. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So while we're waiting on these guys, most of you in this community, you understand what this is all about. You know what the deal is. You, like me, look around and all over the interwebs already this summer. There's all kinds of, people use our hashtag, and there's all kinds of pictures of people standing at Sundance Mountain. I've seen 3 or 4 so far this year. Woohoo! We did the tour of Idaho. And okay, you can say whatever you want, I guess. But, the difference between doing what UtHo did and what many of you have done and many of you will do, and the riding it with a sag wagon or just riding around the stuff that you can't or don't care to ride is immense. There's just no comparison between the two. That's the reason why there's only 69 people that have ever done this. And you're going to see number 70 and number 71 sometime here in the next 15 or 20 minutes. It's hard to do it our way. People are watching. You can't get away with too much. And, the rules that we have are required to, or I shouldn't say required. The rules that we have are designed to make the thing adventurous. It's a big adventure, but it's also extremely difficult. It's not impossible, as we see 8 or 10 times a year, but it is difficult. Now, the one interesting thing about this year, and pardon me here, but I keep my phone excuse me, I didn't set it so it wouldn't go to sleep. So I keep messing with it a little bit. The thing that's really interesting is that there have been some years where there have been no finishers. We've had one of those and maybe 2. I'm not sure. But I've been doing this for about 15 years now, and every year it's just a handful. I think the most we've ever had in a year may have barely been into double digits. But when we remember back in April and May, when we were kind of creeping up on the deadline, we had a June 1st deadline for when you could declare intent. And the reason for that is, and I think this is probably apparent to just about everybody out there right now, you need to spend several months, if not a year, preparing for this. You need to watch what teams do. You need to see what worked, what doesn't work. And then you load up and you do it again the following season. That is pretty much the gold standard formula for success. And more people are starting getting that. They follow it one summer, and then they go out and they do it the next summer, benefiting from what they learned. The teams that are coming later in this season will learn from the teams that went earlier. That's just the way it works. You stand on the shoulders of the people that went before you. And that's a long and proud tradition in a lot of sports and in a lot of adventures. There's some pioneers, and then you follow in their footsteps. And that's kind of a time-honored tradition. So, but in terms of years where we've had finishers, August 15th may be one of the later years. I don't think it's the latest because, again, we've had years where nobody finished, and we've had years where it's just been a trickle. But August 15th, middle of August, that's kind of late in the year. But it also is indicative of the fact that more and more people are starting to understand that it's not a rush. It's not like the gold rush. You don't want to be setting out July 15th. That's just nuts. You have to saw your way through the whole thing. There's still a lot of snow in some places. It's a little bit better to wait, delay your start. And again, more and more people are starting to figure that kind of stuff out. I've told my friends, I have a lot of friends that I chat with every day as we're watching people go. And, I have a lot of friends that I chat with every day as we're watching people go. And, you know, I have a lot of friends that I chat with every day as we're watching people go. And, you know, I have a lot of friends that I chat with every day as we're watching people go. And, you know, I have a lot of friends that I chat with every day as we're watching people go. And, you know, I have a lot of friends that I chat with every day as we're watching people go. And, you know, I have a lot of friends that I chat with every day as we're watching people go. And, you know, I have a lot of friends that I chat with every day as we're watching people go. And, you know, I have a lot of friends that I chat with every day as we're watching people go. And, you know, I have a lot of friends that I chat with every day as we're watching people go. And, you know, I have a lot of friends that I chat with every day as we're watching people go. And, you know, I have a lot of friends that I chat with every day as we're watching people go. And, you know, I have a lot of friends that I chat with every day as we're watching people go. And, you know, I have a lot of friends that I chat with every day they're all tour vets. Most of them are finishers. Some of them are just friends of mine that have gone out and given it a go. There's some people in the industry. But anyway, we have a little chat group, and we talk every day. And this year, I'm guessing that there will be 8 finishers. That's my guess. And I'd actually be kind of amazed if there were more than that. And guess what I see? Y'all are seeing the same thing I am. There's a ping straight from the top of Sundance Mountain. Woohoo! UtHo made it. So those guys, if they have cell coverage, they're going to try to join me live. So we'll wait here for a few minutes and see what happens. But they got the link, and they can do it the same way that we've done Kaylin and Donna and everybody else. So let's give them a few minutes to get a drink of water and get off their bikes and hike up to the tower. But my cell phone worked the last time I was there, and I actually had quite good coverage. So let's just hope that in a few minutes they can be joining us live here. So this is I'm not going to say it's the best day of the year for me because I have a family and there's some things that happen in my family that are better. But this is absolutely one of the best days of the year for me. This is what makes all the work and the occasional bullshit worthwhile. When somebody shows up and you see the smile on their face when they're standing there on Sundance Mountain, then that's what makes all the sawing. Everybody digs it. You know, all the people along the way that are never even going to ride this. Donna's watching this. Kaylin's watching this. All these people that sort of get together to make this whole enterprise work, that's the reason they do it, what you're seeing right now. So, I had a little conversation with those guys last night via text message. And who's going to be 70 and who's going to be 71, I don't know. I suggested that they arm wrestle for it, but they'll probably come up with some pretty interesting way of figuring that out. Right now, there's at least one really strong team that's behind them, and maybe all of them. I don't know, but there's one team that I expect to roll up on Sundance pretty soon, and there's a couple of teams in the queue that I think are really, really strong teams, and we'll just have to see where it all goes from there. You know, teams surprise you. There are teams every year that I think, man, I don't know about these guys, and then they surprise you, and they put the boots to it and they get her done. And then there are other teams that you go, there's no way that these folks cannot get there, and something bad happens. There is a huge element of luck in this. Preparation helps push that element back, and it minimizes it a little bit. But at some point, it doesn't matter how well prepared you are. At some point, you need some luck to get through this thing. These guys didn't run into downfall. They couldn't get around. A fire didn't jump up in front of them. It didn't snow on them. Got cold a few times, but it didn't snow on them. And, there's nothing that preparation does that helps any of that. You do need a little bit of help from the great wheel in the sky to get through this. So like you, I'm just sitting here waiting. Let me see if the other PLB is pinged here yet. Megan and I just got groovy new phones a few days ago. Yep, they're both there. So I see both of them on top of Sundance. So both PLBs are up there. Let's see if those guys can get this link to work. I'll give them a few minutes, and I'm sure that they will message me through their beacons if there's something that's wrong and they can't get her done. But I'm pretty sure that they're both up in that tower right now, probably signing the register, taking some pics, congratulating each other, giving some high fives. And it's awesome. Those of you that have been there, you know what it's like. It's a job well done. Everybody that's ever made it to Sundance, some people had a little bit easier path than others. Again, luck plays a huge role in this. If it's all sod, you don't run into any bad weather. It's definitely easier than it is if it's not sod, you run into a lot of bad weather. But everybody that's ever rolled up on Sundance, they earned it. They had so I was reading a little diary that UtHo had, and they were talking about they didn't even know which day of the week it was, and that's true. That's something I remember from climbing. You're doing big wall climbing. Not only do you not know what day of the week it is, sometimes you don't even know what time of the day it is, especially if you're way up north. I can remember not knowing whether it was in the afternoon or the wee hours of the morning sometime. And the tour kind of does that to you. It just pounds you, and you're kind of in your own little world for a while. And these guys get to break out of it here in just a little bit. So let's see if there's anything popping up on my phone here. Yep, they are both there. All right, we'll give it a few minutes. This is good stuff. So, you teams that are out there in the queue, and I see a few of you that are on teams that are awaiting. You got a pretty good set of templates this year to look at. Again, the beautiful thing about the PLB tracking is everybody can see what you're doing. They can see your splits. They can see when you're pushing. They can see when you're falling behind. And we've seen a lot of all that this year. We've seen some people that were just absolutely hammering it and it caught up with them. We're seeing some people that, you could see the fatigue setting in. You could see later and later arrivals every night. And eventually that catches up with you. And then you've seen a number of teams that have just been, they're like machines. The precision with which they have executed their riding plan is just amazing. And the discipline to keep getting up super early every morning has really impressed me this year. In the past, even some really strong teams weren't able to drag themselves out of bed at 4 a.m. after getting in at midnight. That's what you have to do. You got to just understand, I'm going to get 90 minutes worth of sleep. I may lay down under a tree today and take a nap, but I got to get going on some of these days super early, no matter how late I got in. I can remember rolling into Lowell once, and it was right after we'd made it all the way from, I think it was one of the years when it was, Shoot to Lowell. That was the day. We got back there and the Falls Point Road was closed, and so we had to do the ride around. And I remember we rolled into Lowell at 1:15 in the morning. I had a light that went out, and my stator turned out that the accessory coils of my stator were shot. So I had a couple of auxiliary bicycle lights, and I was using those. And I rolled into to Lowell about 1:15 in the morning. There was another team that was on the route, and they were on the same days as I was. It was a team of two. In fact, it was Jimmy Stocker's team. And I remember rolled in, and somehow those guys had just gotten there about a half an hour before me. I don't know what their problem was. Probably the same thing as I did, that they didn't anticipate not being able to get down Falls Point. But we rolled into Lowell, and it was back in the days when they had that campground there, the Three Rivers. And, the key was underneath the mat, was waiting for me, so I didn't have to bother him. I get in my room. It's about 1:15 in the morning. And I noticed that those guys are next door and the light's on. So I go over there and knock on my door. They'd just gotten there about a half an hour before me. And I remember getting up the next morning, and I was up at 4:00 in the morning, and I went over and beat on their door, and nothing happened. And those guys nearly didn't make it the next day. In fact, the way the rules allowed that year, they actually rode around a section that I ended up sawing my way through, but they had enough challenge points that it didn't matter. It was kind of like this year. So but I remember the next day getting up at 4 in the morning, and that was back when the tour went all the way from Lowell to Wallace. And I remember getting up on Windy Ridge, and at that time, when we went across Windy Ridge, instead of then turning to the east and going across Windy Bell, we went straight ahead and then went down into the river. And it's just as long, and I think I probably sawed 75 trees out of that trail. I got to the bottom, and I went to that nasty campground that's down there, and they had some well water that was just awful. As thirsty as I was, I had to force myself to drink the water, and then I'd puke. And I remember laying down in that campground and taking a nap for a few hours, then getting up, rolling into Wallace, and getting into Wallace at something like 4 the next morning. So it was a 24-hour day, basically. And that's what everybody who's ever done this has experienced, something like that. You just got to will yourself to keep going. And as bad as you want to sleep, you got to get your ass out of bed, get on that bike, and get going. And that is what the teams, UtHo did that every day. the team Armadillo, they did that every day until day 6, middle of day 6. So we're starting to see a lot of that this year. People that understand that getting going early is just incredibly important in this thing. You almost can't get going too early. And again, on hot days, way back, 15 years ago when I started doing this, first 2 or 3 times I did it, if there was a heat wave, I'd get up at midnight, get going, ride till 2 in the afternoon, then take a siesta, sleep, and then get up and start going at midnight again. We saw some people that did some things like that this year. That's innovation. It's allowed within the rules. It's a smart way to do it. All right. I'm suspecting I haven't gotten anything through my PL or through their PLBs yet. So we'll give it another few minutes. We'll go for about another 10 minutes or so waiting on them. And then if we don't have them, I'm just going to assume that for some reason their phones didn't work up there. They couldn't get sufficient signal to get through. I kind of half expect that if it doesn't work, they'll send me a message. But again, the messages that are sent through the PLBs, there's a propagation delay there. So sometimes you don't get it for a few minutes. It all depends on where the satellites are, how busy the network is. There's a bunch of stuff that goes into it, but it's not instantaneous. So I talked a little bit earlier this morning in the daily brief. There won't be, by the way, a daily brief tomorrow. I'm gone all day. So the next daily brief will be Monday sometime, and it'll be Monday afternoon. I got doctor's appointments Monday and Tuesday morning, and I'm not looking forward to either of them. But I will do a briefing Monday afternoon. There'll be a PBR Monday this week. But tomorrow there won't be a briefing. So you all just be left to your own devices, and I think everybody can manage just fine. The weather, as I mentioned earlier, is about to get hot. So for the next 5 or 6 days, day 1 and day 2 are going to be sizzling. So it's another opportunity for you to rethink your riding plan a little bit. Remember, adaptability is really important in all this. You have a plan that you're too rigidly attached to, it may bite you in the derriere. So you have to have the ability to say, hey, I thought I was going to do it this way, but it's pretty clear that I need to rethink this at this point. If it's going to be 99 degrees on Tuesday morning and you're on Tuesday and you're one of the 2 teams that are starting out, maybe a really good plan is to get to Malad, get to bed about 6 o'clock at night, get up at midnight and get going at 1 or 2 in the morning. There's nothing wrong with that. And, it'll keep you out of the heat of the day. Same thing with the desert. We had a team that I thought really wisely, their beacons came on, I think, before 1 in the morning, and they were out in the heat of the desert. They were a little slow getting there, which surprised me a little bit, but they were able to successfully get across the desert before peak heat, which is 4 or 5 in the afternoon, something like that. It's rolling back a little bit as the days start to get a little bit shorter, but that's when you have to worry about it. All right, we'll give it a few more minutes. And then we'll just have to assume that the technology failed us. I have like the provider with the smallest network footprint in the world too. I have T-Mobile. Typically, if T-Mobile works somewhere, anybody else will work there, but who knows? So we'll give it a few more minutes, see what's up. I don't see any messages from those guys. So we'll wait here, see what's up. Does anybody have any questions? I see there's a whole bunch of people out there watching. You got questions, now's a good time to put them up because we've got a few minutes to chat. I've had a real easy time staying up at night watching people because both of my kids got really sick. I don't know what the heck was going on, but they both had like fevers of over 100 the last few days. And Megan works nights, so I've been up all night with both of them, most of the past few days. The bad news is I don't like seeing my kids sick. The good news is that they're getting over it, and it made it really easy to be up at 3 in the morning when teams were leaving. I'm kind of an early riser anyway. I'm usually a 4 to 5 o'clock kind of guy in the summer, but 3's a little early even for me. I got to be up tomorrow morning at 2. Tomorrow I have a super early day, a long day too. Let me see here. Let me try something. Let me send him a message. Okay, I'm going to do something I hardly ever do. I'm going to do in all caps. There we go. Be just like everybody on Twitter. There we go. A congratulations message. Let's see what happens there. All right. 251, and we'll go to 255, and after that, we'll bag it. We'll have to wait for an interview later. I'm going to have those guys. I don't know if I'm going to have them in here in the flesh or if we're going to do a remote, but one of the things that I want to try to do with PBR Mondays is just turn it over to teams that have made it so they can – I don't think an hour is enough. But as soon as I can get those guys together, what I want to do is a PBR Monday where I just let them talk about their trip. And I may have a few questions, but I'm just going to let them have the mic and let them go at it and tell you what they thought about their emotions, you know, how they reasoned through things that worked and things that didn't work. And again, that is super, super important. You should really listen to the people that went ahead of you. It was always entertaining to me that, back in the day when it was just a handful of us, whenever, it was 10 or 15 of us that had finished, nobody ever listened to what we had to say. And it's because, again, motorcycle people, a lot of people that get interested in this come from a race background, and racers are some of the biggest knuckleheads on the planet. The average racer has a cranial density slightly less than that of a neutron star, and it's impervious to all information other than things related to going fast. So we get these racers come up, especially from California, and they don't want to hear any of it. Oh, no, it doesn't work like that. It works like this. And the number of times I've had people sitting in my yard, drinking my beer, telling me I don't know what I'm talking about, is just the stuff of legends. Then they fail and they're pissed off about it. No, we could have done it, but all these weird rules are what kept us from justice. I heard it over and over. But now, there's enough people that have done this, like these guys and a whole bunch of teams in the last couple of years, that, it's a little harder to slide by with this attitude of, I was deprived of my just rewards. Because now there are a number of people out there that say, look, this is basically the way it works. And what you're going to find when you talk to all those people is that there are some things that we disagree about, because a lot of it's personal. It's personal preference. All of us have a different level of comfort with some things. We have different riding styles. Our personalities are a little different. But given all that, there's a huge amount of agreement on certain elements that are really important. Getting an early start. There you go. There's one that I don't think anybody disagrees on. Yet every year we have people that show up and go, I'm so fast, I don't need a pre-dawn start. It's going to be just fine. Now, sometimes people can't help that. Mark showed up the other day, and he was out baling hay until dark the night before, then had to drive 4 hours to get here. There's no disrespect to the tour effort from that guy. He's a stud. He'll be back. But we've seen a little of that even this year. People that just don't take it serious. They kind of roll up and think, yeah, it's going to be a lark, and they usually just don't get very far. But at least now, there's enough people out there and there's enough good information out there that kind of a sketchy point of view doesn't prevail anymore. There's good information out there. And it's not just the information on my website. I see a lot of people write about this, and they say mostly good things, and I'm pleased about that. All right, we're going to give it 1 minute more. And then I'm going to declare this a failed project, and we'll just leave those guys alone. Let them do what they got to do. And maybe we'll try this again. I really wanted to be able to do it with the first team this year, but there's a couple teams coming up behind them, and we may be able to make something work out. But I'm pretty sure, given the amount of time they've been there, that if they could get it to work, they would have gotten it to work. So I apologize for dragging you all away from whatever you were doing on Saturday afternoon, just to listen to me rant and rave for a half an hour now, but I was hoping that we would have better company. All right. Well, looks like it's not going to fly. So I'm sure those guys will have something to say later. And anything that they put up, if they don't put it in their own thread, I'll make sure that it gets moderated up immediately. And I'm sure they'll have a in detailed trip report on the forum a little bit later. But how about we all give it up for these guys? I know they'll see this. And great job, UtHo. First team of the year is always incredibly cool. And you guys could not have done a better job than you did. Your decision-making was brilliant. The way that you planned for this, the way you articulated your riding plan, and just the difficulty of what you did, riding through all that blowdown on the last 3 days. And there was a lot. I just hats off. So I'll see all of you on PBR Monday night, and maybe we'll hear from these guys. Maybe something else will pop up before the weekend's over. All right, everybody, be seeing you.